Hey guys, welcome to Let's Get Nostalgic, where everything on this podcast is nostalgia. I'm your host, Juwan, also known as Dr. Jazzman1. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So today I'll be talking about PlayStation. Now I want to thank everybody for tuning in to my last episode on Nintendo 64 with Manny's Arcade. And hopefully in the next few episodes, I'll have him again as a guest. But like I said, today I'll be talking about the PlayStation. I'm only going to be talking about the first generation and the second generation. Because I think those two are the ones that are a nostalgia classic. Now, as we all know, PlayStation has been around for years, creating consoles and games. Consoles for different games. And when it comes to gaming, it's bussin'. We all know that PS1 came out in 1994. I came a year after that. No, sorry, scratch that. Like I said, the PS1 came out in 1994 and had tons of cool games. Like there was Crash, one of the Disney games, 007. No, that's for Nintendo 64. When I first got the PS1, it was back in 2000. I think probably back in 2001. I was growing up at the time. And I didn't know much about the PS1. Or I didn't know what it even was. But I got used to it for a while, I started only playing like a few games. Well, actually, I only played one. It was called the Namco Museum. Now, what that is a variety of different games. And when you play this game, it's like a museum. You go in there and you see many different games in the museums. Like there's Pac-Man, Toy Pop, and Pole Position. Pole Position was probably one of my favorite games to play. Because, now, Pac-Man's famous. I'm not going to get into that because that's one of the popular games. Now, about Pole Position, it's like a racing game. And there be times when you crash and stuff. Especially love the music that was in the game for Pole Position and Toy Pop. And of course, Pac-Man. Now for the Namco Museum intro, it has Pac-Man, running. I think it was probably running from his arch nemesis. But then out of nowhere comes two race cars. He tries to outdo them, but he gets mowed down. And then he sees Miss Pac-Man, and they both go into the museum together. So yeah, there were like many different varieties in this museum game that really touched my heart. It's been so long since I heard the music of Namco Museum. I usually keep hearing it in my head from time to time. I tried to look it up, like I kept putting in Pac-Man Volume 1 or Arcade. And then I heard I saw a thing called Namco Museum. And that's exactly what I was looking for. It was great to finally find what that game was for PS1. Well, too bad I didn't play for it. I didn't play it too much, the PS1 and everything else. I think we probably sold ours. Yeah, it was hard. I would like to buy that again. Oh, but I did have an experience with the PS1 again when I was in summer school growing up. I already said growing up, but earlier. I was playing one of those educational games in the CD boxes. They're lifespan adventures, called Lightspan Adventures, and they have cases of these games, and they have different variety of them, from Mars Moose Adventures, Cosmic Cook-Off, and Stratus. The Cosmic Cook-Off was probably one of my favorites. Um, Gosh, it's been so long since I played that game. It's like an ABC like kind of category game, whether it's math, science, social studies. It's a pretty great game. Now, Stratus is basically like a historic game. You have to, answer all the stuff about history and everything else. Now, Mars Moose Adventures, I think that should have been an animated series, to be quite honest. I don't know much about it because I don't forgot what it was about. Oh, wait a second. It has many different varieties in the game, like, you know, spot what you're missing, or do an ABC category. So yeah, those were some good times with the PS1. Like I said, I really would like to try the I mean, try to buy the PS1 again somewhere in the near future. Because there are some other games that I've never played before. Like there are some wrestling games like WCW versus the World, the original Crash Bandicoot games. Now, I do have Crash Bandicoot Trilogy and the racing game on PS4. Well, I was thinking of doing a comparison. Excuse me. I was thinking of doing a comparison 2 years ago when I played Crash Bandicoot. When I learned that it came out on PS1, I was in shock. But I didn't have the PS1 or the game on PS1. So yeah, tough times. And then a year later, probably in 2002 or 2003, I started playing the PlayStation 2 or PS2. Now the PS2 was my favorite console to play with. It's a nostalgia favorite. Let me tell you. Growing up, me, my brother, and my two sisters would play on it constantly, especially when we get out of school. I would always put my book. I would always, always hurry home and just play the PS2, or better yet, play it after getting homework done. That's always what everybody should do. After they do their homework and study, you play the PS2 and you play the games. Yeah, but PS2 meant a lot to me and the rest of the family. So we played a lot of cool games on that console. Like we played the Finding Nemo game. We played SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom and the SpongeBob movie. Those two were my favorite. I would play it time after time after time. Now, let's see, what other games? Oh, there's this one game called Hot Shot Golf. Hot Shot Golf 3? Yeah, I think that's it. Hot Shot Golf 3. And let me tell you, that game was pretty impressive. And that's how I started learning how to play golf. You know, I started, clicking the buttons. But there are also funny moments in the Hot Shot Golf game. Like whether it's the birdie, the par. Like this one golfer, he sneezed and something fell out of the sky and hit him on the head. Oh man, that was the funniest moment. I don't even know what to say about it. But yeah, that game was amazing. And I would play it a lot growing up, especially with the music that came on. And I still play golf games, but only on a different console. And I do play for real golf. Now here are some wrestling games. You probably never heard of any of those wrestling games. Well, I'm sure you all have. I'm talking about the WWE games. There was Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, the SmackDown versus Raw series. They were the best. Now, I actually played the Here Comes the Pain game when it came out in 2003. Now, let me tell you, the graphics and everything that was in it were amazing. I especially loved the Hell in a Cell matches that they had, including the hardcore match. Like, you can, use any tool or, no, not tool, use any weapon that's under the ring for the hardcore match, and this red flash goes off when you bust somebody open. Man, those were the greatest moments. Even the shop zone, you know, and the season modes, they were great. Let's see, what else can I say about it? Now, the characters in the game, the wrestlers in the game, had the had their moves and everything. Now, back to the Hell in the Cell part. That one is part amazing and part funny. Like when you exit the cell, you go on top of the cage. Both of you get off on the cage. Both wrestlers go on the cage. The cell, not cage. Now, y'all be fighting, but if you take too many steps back, you fall off the cell, and you kind of land on your head, which is crazy. I thought they would land on their feet when they fall off the cage. And if you throw somebody off, like from King of the Ring 1998, they would flip around like, they fall and they land on their head and they flip around like Jello or like a toy. And that's kind of like the same difference to the Shut Your Mouth game, to be exact. But only when they fall off, they land on their head and flip around like a fish. That's similar to, well, you get the idea. But yeah, the Hell in a Cell matches and Here Comes the Pain, they were great. I especially love getting the costumes in the season mode. Like for Kane, getting the mask. I especially love how they put in the old school music for the theme songs for the wrestlers in Here Comes the Pain. I especially love the legends that are in the game. Only I didn't buy any of the other legends like Jimmy Fly, Jimmy Fly Slug, Jimmy Fly's. No, I ain't gonna say that name. A little reflex. But Undertaker, Ted DiBiase, the Road Warriors. Yep. There's Roddy Piper, George Still, Hillbilly Jim. Especially The Rock. Now, Shut Your Mouth. That came out in like 2002. I played that game and it was more similar. Now this was after they renamed the World Wrestling Federation to World Wrestling Entertainment back in 2000. That game was released in 2002, like I explained. But, this game was amazing. It had all the wrestlers on there. They had Christian. They had Edge. Yeah, they had. I think the Shut Your Mouth game was. I really loved that. I really loved that game. To be honest, I would play it constantly, including the season mode. Now, about the fights around the arena, like in the Shut Your Mouth game, for Here Comes the Pain. Now, for the Shut Your Mouth part, they had WWE New York. Fighting in WWE New York. New York. Yeah, those were some good times. Only I got that game in 2005 when GameFly came out. What was it? I think it. I don't know. I think it was probably 2006 or 2007. I don't really know. But yeah, I got it off PS2. So for Here Comes the Pain, instead of WWF New York, which closed down at the time, they had Times Square, which is great. I mean, you climb on the buildings, hop on the helicopter, and land on the cars. They explode. Those are pretty funny moments. And when you go to the parking lot, you know, they got this electric wire, the electric pole. You throw a wrestler into it, and they get the shock of the light, or throwing somebody off the WWE truck. Yeah, those were some good times, for real. Let's see what other games. I have one mention, and that's iToy. Now that is an interactive game. Now that game comes with the iToy camera, and you have the game. And you usually do anything you want in the game. If you want to stop the game, you just place your hand in front of the camera, in front of the lens. Yeah, that was pretty much a great game. There was amazing, moments in the game that I liked, especially the camera. They have different camera modes like Copycat. What other variety do they have in that game? Well, I think that's the only parts I can think of. I don't know anything else. Um, but one of the greatest games that came out for PS2 was Ratchet and Clank. Now, Ratchet and Clank was spawned the legends of PlayStation. It features Ratchet the Longbox and Clank the robot. I played 3 different adventures of Ratchet and Clank. The first one that I got was called Gold Commando. We actually got that. We actually got the second game before we got the first one. And then eventually we did get the first Ratchet and Clank. And we soon discovered that it was the Going Commando was the previous to the first ever Ratchet and Clank. And let me tell you, some of the levels were pretty hard when I played Ratchet and Clank. Because, Ratchet and Clank were beyond the best. It was the best game ever. I loved I loved all the weapons. I loved how they battled it out, and especially loved the storylines and the trailers. I mean, not trailers, but previews to other planets, like coordinates and everything. Like for Ratchet and Clank, they had the info bot for the first one, and the second one, they would have to download coordinates. Now, Up Your Arsenal, that one I think pretty much would outdo. I think it would outdo the first Ratchet and Clank. I may be wrong, but I don't want to get go into all details about any of the Ratchet and Clank games because I know some people have done that. But yeah, Ratchet and Clank, like I said, best game ever. And if you haven't played them yet, I highly recommend you do. Let's see what else. I think I covered everything I needed to cover on both the PlayStation and PlayStation 2. I would just love to go back and play those games over and over and over. Maybe I could just buy the consoles for each of them, and probably buy the games. But I think that'll only be when I get my priorities straight. Oh wait, scratch that. Sorry, I didn't say that. But yeah, I got nothing more else to say. But yeah, let me just say, PlayStation really, you know, has been my favorite throughout my life. Like I said earlier in the beginning. So I want to say thank you, PlayStation, for bringing us those nostalgia games and for the PS2. I probably will buy that sooner or later. And I guess that's it, guys. I thank y'all for tuning in for this week's episode, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.